30 seconds.
Thank you, Minister. The question I'm asking again is about Brexit, and I want to ask you to outline the aspects of emergency legislation that will be required in your Department of Business, Enterprise and Innovation in the event of no deal Brexit.
Thank you, Cathaoirleach, and thank you, Deputy, for raising this issue. On the 19th of December 2018, the Government published our Contingency Action Plan, which outlines our approach to no-deal Brexit planning. Last week, as part of the Brexit Contingency Action Plan, Government published the general scheme of a bill that would be necessary in the event of a no-deal Brexit. The draft Omnibus Bill, the miscellaneous provision withdrawal of the United Kingdom from the European Union on the 29th of March 2019 bill, focuses on measures protecting our citizens and supporting the economy, enterprise and jobs, particularly in key economic sectors. Insofar as my department is concerned, Part 3 of the Omnibus Bill consists of 9 heads containing legislative provisions relevant to functions under my department. The provisions in Part 3 contain provisions aimed at improving the range of supports offered by Enterprise Ireland to help companies to face the challenges of Brexit and remain competitive at a global level. Specifically, the intention is to increase the ability of Enterprise Ireland to provide a competitive and flexible offering to its client companies in terms of R&D grants, and to allow Enterprise Ireland to provide low-interest debt instruments. In increasing powers for Enterprise Ireland to provide lending supports to businesses, we are helping to preserve the value of the state's investment in these businesses and assisting companies through restructuring or redevelopment programmes. In addition to the legislative provisions contained in the Omnibus Bill, my department is progressing 6 statutory instruments that are also required to deal with Brexit. These statutory instruments are largely technical in nature to effect necessary changes in different policy areas, health and safety, company law and in the export of dual-use goods. These legislative changes are part of a wider suite of measures, both legislative and non-legislative, being undertaken by my department to prepare for Brexit, including the deployment of new business supports, additional funding to the agencies and regulatory bodies, engagement with the European Commission on state aid issues, and ongoing direct engagement with business representatives.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Quinlivan, 1 minute.
Minister, to be honest, I'm puzzled with that response you've given us there. We're 21 Dáil days sitting from the Brexit date, and we only got cited ahead of the bills for the Brexit Omnibus last week. It was my understanding that the emergency legislation contained in the miscellaneous provisions withdrawal of Britain from the European Union bill was urgent new legislation that was being drawn up by the government for a crash out of Brexit. However, when I examined the Business and Enterprise Innovation section of the bill, it's obvious the section is not new. It is in fact a complete copy and paste job of the Industrial Development Miscellaneous Provisions Bill of 2017, and the Committee on Business got cited that back in October. I appreciate these provisions will indeed assist our enterprise agencies in the event of a no-deal Brexit, but these amendments to the Industrial Development Acts weren't designed or drawn up in the last few months preparing for a hard Brexit. They were in fact on the way regardless. This looks like the government is trying to pull the wool over our eyes by copy and pasting legislation that was on the way anyway into this omnibus Brexit bill to literally bulk it up and make it look like the government are more prepared than they actually are. So, Minister, can you clarify the situation?
Thank you very much, Deputy. Minister, 1 minute.
Yeah, just to say to the Deputy that a huge amount of work has gone in with businesses through the agencies, whether it's the local enterprise office, whether it's the Intertrade Ireland or whether it's Enterprise Ireland. A huge amount of supports have gone into supporting businesses. We identified these pieces of legislation as being necessary to help businesses in the event of a no-deal Brexit, and what it means is that we can give them extra supports. And just to say that 85% of Enterprise Ireland firms are actually taking Brexit-related actions. There's a lot of work going on out there. Almost 3,500 companies know how ready they are for Brexit, using the Enterprise Ireland Brexit scorecard as a first step in developing their Brexit plan. there's been a series of nationwide Brexit clinics hosted by Enterprise Ireland taking place right over the country, and then we had the Brexit awareness campaign, and that went to many towns and cities across the country. Over 625 Enterprise Ireland Brexit exposed companies have completed sustainable growth plans. So there's a huge amount of work going on right across government.
Final minute, Deputy Quinlivan.
Minister, and I went to some of those meetings that you spoke about, and I want to commend the enterprise agencies for doing the best that they can do. But I really want to express my surprise that there is no other legislation that would be required for business. And just to follow up on a question Deputy Butler asked, what contact have you or the government had with the European Union requesting emergency measures if indeed a hard Brexit takes place? Minister Donoghue announced earlier in the week that unemployment could rise by 2% under no-deal Brexit. Would it not be prudent to now prepare legislation for an employment assistance scheme that could help companies who could find themselves struggling? Are you satisfied that the current Brexit business support schemes are working as well as they could? The extremely low uptake rate of these would suggest they need serious adjusting to ensure businesses are actually able to make use of them. Only 5% of the 300 million Brexit loan scheme has been drawn down to date. So what are you personally doing to ensure a higher uptake of this loan scheme? Do you intend to modify the scheme to make it easier and more accessible for business?
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister. Final minute.
We'll just answer the last question first. There has been a good take-up now in terms of the Brexit working capital loan facility. There's almost 15 million euros of that, 15 million euros. But of course, businesses need to they have to decide what suits their financial planning. And it is available. It's easy to access, and I've heard no complaints about people that can't access it. In fact, it's there, but it has to be in line with their financial requirements, because at the end of the day, if you borrow money, you still have to pay it back. So businesses are looking at it. It is available to them. I think perhaps as we get closer to the Brexit deadline, that more businesses will now have that facility in place. And in fact, I would encourage businesses have the facility in place just in case you need it. But again, it has to be, if I was a business person, I'd want to make sure that it was in line with my financial capabilities as to whether I borrowed it or not. Just in terms of the Commissioner, I met, as I said, with the Commissioner Vestager only last week, and we outlined to her clearly the difficulties that Ireland is going to be presented with in terms of Brexit, no deal or otherwise, because there's nothing good about Brexit, and that's the fact of the matter. And there's nothing good about Brexit for many Irish businesses. And I have to say, she was very conscious and very aware of the special situation that Ireland finds itself in now in terms of the challenges it faces regarding Brexit. But she did, we have been doing a lot of work with her, and she did say that the EU remains ready to assist in any way they can.
Thank you. Sorry.